F1 is known predominantly for its giants. Era to era, these giants come and go, bowing out to the sport with the respect of the paddock, or crashing out and going down as martyrs of one of the most dangerous sports in the world. But regardless of their exit, their impact on the sport is remembered for better or for worse. Those currently creating their legacies still have the luxury of choosing how and when they depart, and for one driver in particular, they may well be looking to flee the scene just as fast as they exploded onto it. Meanwhile, in the background, another legend awaits, questioning whether or not he should make the often advised against move of retreading the path that he chose to leave all those years ago. The question is the time right for either of these drivers, or is this merely a slow Newsweek taking its toll on a paddock that's used to full-speed drama? Want to know whether you should believe the rumors of an early retirement for Verstappen? There's more to it than you would think, but would he actually go through with it? And stick around, because those Vettel heads are at it again, foaming at the mouth for their golden boy to be involved in just about anything. But could it actually prove harmful for the team he's being touted to join? So Max Verstappen has had a hell of a time so far in Formula 1, all the way from his debut as the youngest driver ever in the sport back in 2015, all the way to his 3 titles just 8 years later. He really hasn't stopped. Approaching a decade in any job can take its toll. It's an amount of time many people won't even reach before wanting to pursue new avenues, feeling the need to be reinvigorated in their work. But then again, none of us are full-time streamers and part-time F1 drivers, now are we? Max is the kind of driver that could drive for the rest of his days and be a lifer in the sport. However, that is assuming that the sport he once loved remains untarnished in his eyes. Max's disdain for the upcoming regulation shift and desire for simpler things in life, that being loud engines, the stink of fuel, and the joys found between man and machine, have seemingly made his long-term future appear as being incongruous with F1's long-term vision. Having called out the upcoming rule changes and having a known dislike for cars that take control out of his hands, it's understandable that following simulator runs of the 2026 regulation car, Max was not impressed. This, as well as the pressures that come from being the top dog in the sport, the constant media pylon, and the dreams of other categories, it can bring us to the conclusion that yes, Max may not be driving in F1 at a similar age to Fernando Alonso. However, that is a long way off, with the Dutchman still only being 26 years old. David Croft, however, pondered on whether or not Max will even see out his current contract, set to expire in 2028, with the pundits saying, he also chuckled to himself when he said, of course, I don't know if I want to be driving in 2026 or not. And that's a more pertinent point, is when is Max going to stop? And I think, he's contracted until 2028, and then he will take a long, hard look at whether he's still enjoying Formula 1 or not. But he might do it a little sooner. There are other priorities in Max Verstappen's life, not just going out and winning races and winning championships. Clearly, Max's time in the sport isn't done yet, but with his desire to race at Le Mans, as well as other categories, as well as him pretty much completing Formula 1 at this point, with the only thing left for him to aim for is hoarding more championships and race wins until his number is higher than someone else's, then it's hard to argue against Max dipping his toes into the new regulations, not liking them, and subsequently dipping out of the sport. Who knows, with his dominant performances in F1, he may go on to achieve the goal that Alonso never could, being the second person in history to achieve the Triple Crown. For those of you unaware, that's a driver winning the F1 World Championship, the Indy 500 and Le Mans, something only achieved by Graham Hill back in 1972. Some of you may already be typing saying, but it's not the F1 Championship, it's winning at Monaco. But we don't want to water down the barrier for entry here, and the OG Graham Hill set his barrier for entry at this one-man club. When discussing the potential for Max to bow out of the sport before falling away from his prime, ex-driver Mark Blundell had this to say. The combination of Max and Red Bull definitely has some possibilities there of putting a name in the history books of the big scorers, but I think Max is an interesting character. He's one of those guys that you could very easily see him go and do something and actually walk away from it, and it would be the end of that. I don't kinda see him at the moment being one of those guys who's in here to stay for the rest of his days. He doesn't strike me as that person. I might be wrong, but it just strikes me that he's all about getting done what he needs to do and the job at hand, and when he's had enough, he's had enough. We'll wait and see. In other news, the Vettel fanboys are at it again. As soon as there's even a glimpse of an open position in the sport, a tidal wave of people that probably would have despised him in 2013 call for their favourite man to be implemented. Whether a seat in the paddock, on the FIA, or if their wife is looking for a new boyfriend, Vettel is the answer. Obviously, we're being tongue-in-cheek here, and the possibility of Vettel returning to the sport is worth looking at out of sheer curiosity alone. So this week, the news of Vettel making his return to the sport in the form of a Mercedes driver is well worth exploring. Let's start with the positives. Vettel is a setup maestro who recently put Aston Martin on their path to success, laying foundations of the now competitive package that the team is using. He'd bring in a new perspective, a wealth of experience with multiple teams, including the very teams that Mercedes are looking to catch in Ferrari and Red Bull, as well as the one they're looking to keep at bay in Aston Martin, as well as being a successful German driver joining up with a Mercedes team losing their golden boy, who also happened to give nothing but glowing praise for the prospect of Vettel joining the team in his absence. But I would love for Seb to come back, and I think it would be an amazing option for the team. German driver, multi-world championship winner, amazing value to continue to take his team forward. The only thing I really care about is that, as a driver, the team takes on someone with integrity, those that are aligned with the team and where the team is going. All the semantics aside, however, Vettel does come with one major upside. He will not be looking for longevity, something currently putting prospective top drivers off of the Mercedes seat due to it being earmarked for Kimi Andrea Antonelli for as soon as he hits puberty. Bringing in an older driver whose importance will lay in steadying the ship and redirecting the team's current awry course would also suit driver George Russell, who claimed he would welcome Seb back to the sport, saying, "Sebastian's a great person and he's a four-time world champion, and for sure his personality is missed on the grid." However, he'd immediately walk that back by saying he'd accept anyone at the team, wanting to plant himself as top dog at the team over anyone who would join. So, as I said before, I'm really happy and open to have anybody as my teammate. Whether it's world champion, whether it's a rookie, it really doesn't change how I go about my business, and yes, as I said, we'd welcome anybody. This, however, is where we have to lay down a bit of a reality check. Seb joining the team surely shows a lack of ambition from Mercedes, right? I mean, already in recent years they've taken steps backwards, with the reinstatement of James Allison being the answer for Mike Elliott's failings for one, so why would bringing back a stopgap driver who has already been out of the sport for a couple of years now after losing his killer instinct be anything but a limiting factor for the team? Unless Vettel reawakens his inner bull, we think limiting a team's point potential for a year or two in the hopes that you just so happen to have a Verstappen in waiting, who you're fast tracking through the junior category, sounds incredibly rash and like an absolute shot in the dark. Vettel may come back and be amazing. Antonelli may be the next dominant driver in F1. Mercedes may make a good start in the new regulations. But to us, this all sounds incredibly hit and hope. And if even one of them misses, then it may send the team who were the dominant force just a few years ago on an irreparable death spiral. Clearly though, this is just our opinion, so let us know yours. Is Seb the right man for the job, or is this just short-sighted from Mercedes? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.